Welcome back to the Graham Stephan Show, and it's getting harder and harder to rent real estate here in the United States. Case in point, this video from CNBC, which is titled, "Why Renters Are Taking Landlords to Court in the US." So with that said, I want to comment on this video as a landlord myself. As soon as you hit the like button and subscribe, I'll do my best to be as unbiased as possible here, but I want to see what's going on. Thank you so much, and now let's begin.
The average rent in the United States across all forms of housing is over $1,950 a month. Prices are falling in the West and South, but still rising in the Midwest and Northeast.
When we moved here, it was around $4,000. In 2023, it's over $6,700.
All right, so let me just stop here for a quick moment. A lot of this is really just supply and demand. The same thing also happens when you look at grocery prices, oil prices during the summer and peak seasons. They tend to go up because there's more demand than supply. Housing is the same thing. If people are moving to a specific location and there's not enough demand out there, what do landlords do? They tend to price their units in line with whatever the market value is. And if they can't get that market value, then it's a trade-off between lowering prices and taking a loss, or leaving it empty, in which case most landlords will just lower the price. So in a lot of these cases, it's a combination of a lot of demand pushing up prices and overhead costs are going up substantially. Just look at what's happening with insurance rates throughout parts of Texas, Florida. They're going through the roof. Even California. Insurance rates are sometimes double what they used to be about a year ago. Where did that money come from? It eventually gets passed on to the tenants because the homeowners, their overhead costs are going up, and if it costs them more, they have to charge more to just be able to break even. So it's a bit of a backstory here. I know, sob for the landlords, I get it, but that's just kind of what's going on.
A group of large landlords is now being sued for their approach to business. The lawsuits focus on their agreements with RealPage, a major provider of property management software.
Effectively, RealPage is facilitating a housing cartel.
Ooh, this is getting juicy. So for those that are unaware, there is this commercial real estate software, RealPage. And what it does is you go and sign up for it, and it'll tell you the optimal pricing for the unit and when to leave it empty. So they do these wild calculations and algorithms behind the scenes to just say, okay, if this unit should be renting at $2,700, don't rent it below this price, because then over the long term, it's going to affect the average rents. And if you lower the price, it's going to lower the values of every other unit, and it's worth it for you just to keep it empty and eventually rent it at the higher price. Like, it does all these calculations. And what tenants are arguing is that this is price fixing, because it's basically implying and giving the same data across all the other landlord companies out there to basically just say, here's what we think the unit should be renting for at the optimal price to maximize profits. And if you rent it under this, it kind of hurts everybody. Because again, keep in mind, if you have like 3 buildings throughout the city and one of them is renting at $2,200, now that's a comp. And now you have to lower your rents in your building because this one over here is 22 and you're asking 27. You can't compete with that. So this software, I don't know exactly what's going on with the software, but that's the claim that they're making. Is it true? We're maybe going to find out.
The large apartment buildings in our city, the market concentration is north of 50, 60%. And then if you add in the total DMV, you have close to an 80 or 90% concentration of units in these named defendants.
So it makes it sound like 90% of the rental housing is using the same software, and because there's not enough price discovery in the market, because you have 90% all using the same thing, maybe that is leaning towards a monopoly, where they could just agree on a price and, hey, this is the price that we need to charge, this is it, and if they don't pay it, it's just going to sit empty, so we're going to force people to pay it because we control 90% of the inventory.
An initial conference for the case is scheduled for May 2024. The defendant landlords declined to comment on pending RealPage litigation.
Yeah, obviously. Why would they comment on pending litigation? Listen, I know it's supposed to be customary to always reach out to somebody who you're doing, like, I don't want to say a hit piece on, but you're inquiring. They're never going to comment. I mean, if you get a comment, you're going to be lucky on anything pending litigation like that. But okay, it's fine that they at least made an effort, but they're never going to get a response. They would have to be stupid to respond to a reporter on pending litigation. They'd have to be so dumb. But you know what? Maybe 1 in 1,000 times they're dumb and they say something. Maybe that's it.
We've been told as tenants by employees of Equity that the software takes empathy out of the equation, so they can charge whatever the software tells them to charge.
I mean, in a way, that's how some of the biggest businesses run. They don't really run on emotion. They don't run because, oh, I feel good about this. Or businesses tend to be a bit indifferent. They tend to focus on the numbers and the bottom line. So as a business, most successful businesses tend to employ the exact same strategies.
Just turning the system on and letting it perform will outperform your manual analyst. There's almost no way it can't.
Jeffrey Roper is the inventor of YieldStar. The product was acquired by RealPage in 2002.
Yeah, so basically, on average, this software is so advanced that the rents it's getting are higher than the rents of everything else around it because it is so far beyond what a person is able to compute, as you're about to see here.
Our complaint alleges that the terms of agreement that the landlords and property owners agree to compel those landlords to charge the rents that the algorithm that RealPage creates spits out.
It doesn't sound like they're compelled, though. It sounds like RealPage is giving them a recommendation. Landlords are paying for a software to analyze what they should be charging for optimal rent, and they're agreeing with the software. I don't see it any different from any other program that's out there that people rely on to run their business. In this case, this software is able to compute better than a person for charging optimal rents, and love or hate it, if they're getting the rents, you know, that's what a landlord is charging.
We're 96% occupied. We raised the dividend 6% a few months ago. So the story is housing is expensive and undersupplied.
That could give landlords more power to increase rents.
Again, the problem is that they're not building enough units. And I think a lot of people are getting into real estate now knowing this. And they're assuming if I buy this building, it's going to be way easier to purchase and build today than it will be 10 years from now. And because of that, there's an arbitrage that I could buy in early, and just politicians are going to make it so much more difficult. We got to make it easier to build houses. The only solution to this, the way I see it, build more. If there's more supply and not enough demand, prices will naturally go down. But I think a lot of people, including myself, have a belief that building materials are only getting more expensive. Labor is also getting more expensive. Liability insurance is only getting more expensive. General insurance only getting more expensive. And you have all these costs to begin to build and build and build. And pretty soon, it's going to cost so much money to be able to build any sort of multifamily housing that you have to charge absurd rents for it to even cash flow or even be positive on it. Like to just break even, you have to charge so much money. And that's it. And if they're not going to make any money for the amount of time and risk that they're putting into a deal, then they're not going to build. And if they don't build, guess what? Prices of everything else tend to go up higher.
Tenants across the United States have launched numerous lawsuits against their landlords for using RealPage. In 2023, the Justice Department filed a statement of interest in the class action, arguing that the complaints adequately allege violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act.
This is going to be huge, by the way. This is going to be massive, because if they find that there is confirmed price fixing, what's to say that's not going to extend to every other property management software out there that gives any sort of algorithm-based price? And if so, how many landlords are able to use that software at the same time? How do you limit that? There's so many nuances to something like this, where even a Zestimate, is that going to fall under price fixing? Like imagine you go on Zillow and you see the Zillow price estimate is like $2,800 a month. Is Zillow now price fixing? How is that price determined? Is it accurate? Is it in the benefit of the tenant or the landlord? There's so many nuances with this. I don't know if it's ever going to fully get resolved, or if it does, I guarantee you, this thing is dragging on for 5 to 8 years. There could be just a settlement where they don't admit any wrongdoing, and then they just move on. So this will be very interesting to see how it plays out.
We're seeking monetary damages, penalties, but also restitution for tenants who have been unfairly and illegally required to pay inflated rents higher than what a naturally competitive market would have set for them.
It's going to be tough, because you could argue a naturally competitive market is using algorithms and using software. And almost every big landlord has some sort of CRM, some sort of software that they're using to operate. Any big business is using a software to operate more efficiently. Who's to say a landlord can't use a software that analyzes average rents, selling prices, building costs? Again, it's so nuanced here that I don't know if this is going to be successful. But again, we'll see. To me, I wish they would put this amount of effort into figuring out new zoning regulations and thinking, how could we incentivize more people to build in these locations? What could we do to get more landlords here to build more, or more developers? Because if we doubled the housing supply, I know easier said than done, but if you double the housing supply, rents would fall almost immediately by 30% overnight. So I think putting more emphasis on building more would yield a better result overall.
Roper, the inventor of YieldStar, now develops revenue management software for the e-commerce industry. Similar products are also used in hotels, grocery stores, and to set prices on toll roads.
See, it's like, again, if you call that price collusion for real estate, then it's price collusion for everything else. Like, imagine grocery stores all getting together and using a software that says, okay, in this location, an apple should cost this. In this location, an apple should cost this. Labor in this location is more money, and we need to charge more to break even on this and return a profit. So therefore, we charge this. This one sees X amount of people coming in, so we have to charge this. This extends throughout everything that we do in our daily lives. I mean, I don't think you understand just how big this could potentially be. If it starts with landlords, where can it end? Even, I'm sure, utility bills. They go based on supply and demand and what it costs to supply electricity or water to a property. If they use any sort of software, couldn't now we all get together and say, oh, they're using a software and they're charging more? I don't know.
Equity Residential told CNBC it's filed a lawsuit in federal courts challenging that decision, which was separate from the RealPage complaints.
But for the city's non-enforcement, we wouldn't be subject to RealPage software or even market rate. There is no market rate under rent control.
The rent control issue is entirely separate. So it sounds like, I don't know how a building would be subject to rent control like that without the owner knowing. To me, there sounds like there's some legal issues with this building, and it's unclear if it constitutes rent control or not.
It's not only illegal and unlawful. In this day and age, it's just immoral and wrong. And that's why we felt it necessary to bring this antitrust lawsuit when we did.
So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I know it's going to be juicy. Listen, I'm trying to remain as unbiased as I can here and give my own thoughts on this, but let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, feel free to hit the like button, subscribe. And don't forget that you could get some free stocks down below in the description. I got a paid affiliate link. I'll get a commission when you sign up, but you could also get some free stocks that are worth all the way up to a few $1,000s. So let me know what stocks you get. Enjoy. Thank you so much, and until next time.